sit here,
You're below them.
yeah, if I sit here, then I'm letting him know that he's got the power. And I want him to know that I feel confident in what I'm doing, and thereby I'm taking a position of confidence, which is the head of the table. So I sit down, I ask him, let's have a seat and let's talk. I immediately point to where I want him to sit, and I sit at the head of the table. I've never had a problem with anyone getting upset. They accept it because you've already gone through the house, and they can see that you're a professional, you know what you're doing, okay? So we sit at the head of the table, and as soon as I sit, I thank him. Hey, thanks first of all, I want to thank you for letting me in your house and giving me this opportunity to get this listing presentation. Have you had any other agents? I asked that right from the rip. Have you had any other listing presentations from any other agents? Do you have any scheduled? I'm hoping, if he's honest with me, if he tells me that he's had one, now I know he's got some information and he's already armed with a little bit of information rather than being the first one in. I usually, if I can get that question answered before the listing, are you interviewing multiple agents? I usually like being the last one because he's not ready to seal the deal on the first one. He's not ready. If he's interviewing 3, he's not ready to seal the deal till he meets all 3, right? So you want to be in a situation where you're ready to seal the deal. Now, I've got my comps, I've got my listing presentation, I open up my folder, and I brought my contract as well. My contract always goes, never go to a listing presentation without your contract and every supporting document that you need to take the listing that day. So I've sat down, I wasn't able to gather from him whether he had previously met with other agents, but while I'm here, he did tell me, yeah, I've spoken to a couple agents already. But I haven't made a decision yet. And so my next question is, well, what's kept you from making a decision? Well, I really wanted to make sure that I interview enough agents so that I can be sure of, that I'm getting the best representation. Now, we're talking about the finer sellers, because a lot of times the $200,000 seller isn't going to be as detailed as the guy selling $1 million home, and that's understandable. There's probably a different income stature at that point, and so education levels and everything change. So they're a little bit more pickier of who they want representing. So now he's disclosed to me that he is, and at the moment I say, well, I hope that by the time I get done today, you'll be ready to make that decision. Because I want him to know that I'm here to get the listing. So by the time I'm done, I really want to make sure that you're ready. So I let him know that there's no secret about it. That's what I'm here for.
That's your goal.
And and if you come in here thinking that you're just going to do a listing presentation and then leave and he's going to call you back, or if you left the house and there's no commitment, your chances just went down by at least 50% to get that listing. So you got to fight for it while you're there, because you've got this opportunity, you got this person in front of you, you may never see him again. But you have to fight for it. So then once we're past that, and I gave him those comments, now I'll break out the list of the comparables. And I'll go in very detail, and I'll point out, okay, let me show you the way this works. When we put your property on the market, we're more than likely in a house of this nature, we're not going to get a cash offer. We may, but it's probably going to be with financing. The first thing I do is explain how financing works and how the appraisal process works. Because I want to get that out of the way, because I want their mind to say, if he's worth a house, you think your house is worth $2 million, but the sales in the area are not saying that, and a guy comes in here and puts an offer, and he may not be able to buy your house even if he wants it, because he doesn't have the financing, he doesn't have enough money to cover over the appraisal value. So I address that at the beginning, and I give him an educational, I call it an educational tour, because I take them on a tour of what financing and appraisal is. It's a mini class that I share with them about financing and appraisal. Once we get past the financing and appraisal, then I'll break out the comps, and I'll say, okay, here's what we got. We got this house, this house, this house. Now, granted, when a person puts their...
Do you mention what would happen in the situation that the house doesn't appraise?
Oh, of course. I talked to him about the appraisal. When I tell him about the appraisal, I say, listen, if we're under contract for $1.5 million, and the appraisal comes in at $1.2 million, and a buyer's getting an 80% loan, he's putting 20% down, and he doesn't have that extra $300,000 to come in with the purchase, the contract's going to go south. And it's going to be canceled because they just don't have the money to cover it. If it was 10, 15, 20, and the person really likes the house, they may come up. I've had them come up even $50,000. But 300 is a tough. So I throw a big number out there, and I'm already basing it on what I think I'm going to price the house and what I think he thinks it's worth. So I'm kind of using some numbers that may make sense for him at the time, but I am very detailed on how I explain the process of the appraisal so that they already know that a guy coming in with financing, it is subject to appraisal, okay? I also talk about, before I get into the comp, I forgot, I usually talk about our market. I usually talk about the market the way it is. So I'll tell him, the good thing for you right now is that we are in a complete seller's market. We've got very limited inventory. I'll explain to them the reason why it's limited, which obviously we're limited on the inventory now because of COVID. COVID-19 has diminished our inventory because a lot of people are scared of having traffic through their house because of all the fear mongering on television. And so they've foregone listing until the pandemic is completely over in their eyes. And also, we have a mass exodus of many cities throughout this country where people are moving to cities that are more apt to open up and allow people to move freely, which we know that New York City is one of the ones where there's a lot of constraints, and we have a lot of people coming down from New York City. So that market there is also driving a complete robust seller market because of the people coming down. So that they're in a good position at this point. But at the same time, you want to let them know, if you guys follow the market, $500,000 and down, days on market is different than homes of $1 million and up. It's just a totally different market. There's a lot more movement in that $500,000 down, which is your blue collar worker home now. It's funny to say that's the blue collar worker home now because it's gone up so much, but it is $500,000 and down. So the days on market, you want to make sure that they understand that, because at the same time that you're telling them it's a seller's market, you want to let them know that this type of property doesn't sell as quickly in many cases as the blue collar workers property, which is the $500,000 and down. Okay. So now we've sat down, we've already got that connection, so we feel confident we're both flowing good because we've spoken about a lot of different things that we agree on, and we're discussing the pricing on the property. Obviously in this house, when I came in, I ran my numbers, I ran my comps, and once I got in here, everything changed.
Yes, that's it.
Because the numbers just don't add up, the comps around here, to what the finishes the house has. But that's a conversation that you need to have with the client as well, because of the fact that you can over-improve a house.
So what do you do in that case? You come with your comps and you find out that
I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do.
it's a tricky neighborhood. You throw it in.
First of all, what you do is, if an appraiser came into this house, obviously he's going to use comps. And you want to explain to they're going to use comps, but the price per square foot for a house that is not finished like this is going to be less than the house that's finished like this. So if the appraiser's good and you're smart, you're going to bring those listings and identify those top listings in the area. And then you're going to ask him, obviously, that there has to be some type of an adjustment for quality of construction and finish. You still might not make it to the finish line, but that's your goal. But a house like this, I can't price, obviously, just based on comps, because when I looked at the sales of the finishes of the other houses, first of all, they were finished much older. Now there's some newer ones that are popping up. But this neighborhood is one of those neighborhoods that you saw it, very few sales. Yeah. People live here forever, so you don't get a lot of sales in the neighborhood. That's not to say the property won't appraise, just because there's no sales, because they can go out of the neighborhood if they have to find sales, and they can go to other areas to pull the comps out. But it's a very tricky thing when you get here to comp it out. So I'm going to give you an example. When I ran my comps in here, I came here, and I was thinking this house was going to probably list, based on comps, right around $950 to $960. And I was off my mark. We're at 1.2. Because once we got in here, just in Venetian plaster inside this house, the whole house has Venetian plaster. We're talking about $60,000 to $70,000 just in Venetian plasters. I didn't take into account that chandelier is $25,000 and he's leaving it. That's a short
Is he leaving them off?
He's leaking all the chandeliers. So in lighting alone throughout this whole house, there's over $100,000 in lighting.
Sound.
Okay? You have sound. You have the theater. There's just so much more in here than what I thought I would find when I came in, that I had to literally make my adjustments. Now, when I do my adjustments, I go back into what's called, I'm sure some of you have used RPR, which is basically a software that you can basically do like what the appraiser does. So we really never finalized a number. I showed them the comps. Basically, we went over everything, and I told them, based on everything that I've noted in your house now that I'm in here, I have to go back, and I have to plug the numbers, plug all this stuff in with values, because I asked him for values of everything, what he paid for it, plug the numbers back in and get back to you with a true number. And you know what? He appreciated that. He appreciated that because I was being honest with him. And then he later conveyed to me that the other agents had given him a complete number, that the other agents that listed, and one of them I told them they listed at $899, the other one I told them they listed at $920, and they left out of here without making any adjustments, without mentioning any of the finishes, and just running the numbers based on appraisal, and they were gone. Well, they didn't get the listing, I got it. I went back to the office as soon as I got back out of here. I prepared the RPR, and I didn't call him. I came back over because I told him I'd be back in 2 hours because I wanted a commitment and I wanted that listing signed. And I came back in here 2 hours later with my RPR, with all my adjustments. He was very happy. He agreed on the listing price, and he gave me the listing. Signed it right there, and we were ready to go. Okay? So that is being proactive, being ready, being dressed and ready to go at all times, and making sure that you don't leave for tomorrow when you got a hot client and he's waiting for you. That act of going and told him, I'll be back. I'm going to go take care of it right now. And I went and I came back. I could have done it with my laptop in front of here, but you know what? You don't want to do that because now you've got him with anxiety waiting. Let him go do his thing. Have a commitment that you're going to be back in a couple hours, because I've seen agents go and they say, oh, wait a minute, they open up their laptop, the client's waiting, they can't get it right, they're kind of stressed out.
Internet,
yeah, the internet connection and all that. It's better to say, listen, this is a lot more than what I thought. And when you're doing that, you're actually praising him because the house is amazing. So you're telling him, hey, listen, I'm going to be back. I'll be back in 2 hours. Will you be available at 4 o'clock? Yeah, I'll be available at 4 o'clock. If he's not 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7, whatever time you got to be there, you're going to go back that same day. Come back with your listing, give him the numbers, sign the listing. Okay? Now, once we got the listing signed, that we're all set and we're all signed, if I did note something in the property, I have my list here already of everything that I noted. I'm going to say, all right, we're all good to go. I'm going to be scheduling my photographer to come out to do the drone shots. I'm going to schedule him to come in and do the Photoshop video, Matterport, and everything that you're going to get done on the property to showcase this property. However,
That's Matterport.
Matterport is a software that, it's a video tour that you can walk through the house. There's little round things that you
yeah, the video tour.
Yeah, you can zoom in. Not a regular video.
Virtual tour.
You control the virtual tour. And then, so I've got the list, and I would say before I get them out here to take the pictures, okay, I noted when we were walking through the house that there was a stain in the room. I'd like for you to get, it's very simple, get a can of Kills, put some Kills on it so you kill the stain, paint it so that way it doesn't show, and that way when I start the showings, that's all taken care of. And then I'll address that list. After the listing is signed, I address the list. Now we talk about the little things that he needs, little knickknacks that he needs to fix. And obviously, the only knickknacks I have a client take care of are the knickknacks that are going to be pitfalls, but I don't have him spend money on anything that's not going to add value to the property. And that's one of the major pitfalls of clients that I have a property that I did a listing presentation for, which I'm waiting for them to give me the okay. I already have the listing signed. The inside of the house is a complete gut job. I mean, the kitchen is completely old, and he told me, oh, but I'm going to go buy new stainless steel appliances. I looked at him and said, for what? That kitchen needs to be gutted. Whoever comes in here is going to want a new kitchen. And we agreed on that. So where are they going to put the appliances? They're going to get dusty while they do the work, and they want to pick their own. Let's reflect it on the price or give a credit, and they can get their own appliances afterwards. I'd rather you take the money that you were going to spend, the $5,000, $6,000 on appliances, and fix the outside. I need some curb appeal because the house looked horrible outside. The grass was dead. There was no flower beds. There was nothing. And when you walked up to the house, the first thing that you noticed, that a person notices when they're walking up to the house is, man, no, not the landscape, the curb appeal. When you walk up to a house, what's the first thing you say? Man, it looks nice from the outside. So if they go in with a preconceived notion already that it looks terrible on the outside, their mind turns negative. People don't put a lot of emphasis on that curb appeal. Curb appeal is very essential because most people would only drive by your house and never see the inside of your house. There's neighbors here that have never been inside this house. But they've noticed that its landscape is always on point, and that you guys may have not have noticed, but that big thing in the front is literally a Mickey Mouse with the ears. That's a detail, okay, that I noticed when I saw the aerial on it. I said, well, yo, he put a Mickey Mouse, and I noticed him. I called him. He said, oh, yeah, we love Mickey. We love Disney. So they did a Mickey Mouse. Okay, it's out there. You'll notice it now. All of you walked in, no one noticed it, right? So the curb appeal is where you want to focus. If the house on the inside is beyond what's going to be done, like telling someone to replace appliances or telling someone to do flooring on a property and keep the old kitchen when you know you got to rip out that kitchen to put the flooring under, makes no sense. So you have to have that foresight on what advice you can give that client to get maximum return than having them do something and spend money on something that's not going to give them any extra money. Okay? So basically that's it. Once the listing is done, we've agreed, we've gone over the list as to what needs to be, what I would like for him to address. We exchange our pleasantries, and then I immediately start scheduling the sign to be put up, start scheduling the video picture, and I'm calling them right away. Oh, I've got it scheduled for next Wednesday. Have the house ready, make sure it's clean. I get here an hour before, always. Anytime I got a photo shoot, I'm an hour before at the house. Because you see that coffee maker on there? I put it away. I go in the bathroom. I remove everything from they might have a toothbrush. I make sure that I walk through the house, and this is my shot. I'm paying for this photography, and I want it to look its best. So I go in here and I make sure that I remove everything, make sure everything's in its place, and that the house looks great. And from that point forward, it's listing your property and doing your marketing. There's little things that can get away from you. Now, I'm going to point out another thing that happens really in listing. Hey man, listen, I think 6%, because you're going to go over the listing. 6% is a lot of money. Can you do it for 5? Can you do it for 4? Yeah, listen, let me explain to you about the commission, the way it works. First of all, I know it looks like it's easy money for an agent, that we're making a lot of money. We spend a lot of money on marketing. We got board fees, education fees that we have to pay, continuing education. And on top of that, the moment I take your listing, I'm spending $1,000 the moment I take it, because I'm doing a photography session here with video, Matterport, and I'm going to spend $1,000 on you. The next, I'm going to start mailers, and I'm going to start marketing your property. So in the end, I may end up eating a point of that up just on marketing alone. Now, if I reduce the commission on this property here and I offer 5%, that means 2.5% for me and 2.5% for the other agent, or 2% for me and 2% for the other agent. We work on commissions. Us realtors all work on commissions. So if there's an agent showing properties in this area that he's got a client that's looking in this area, he's going to look at all the listings. Guess which ones he's showing first? The ones that are paying 3%, because they're going to do the same amount of work. So they're going to take their client to the one that pays them the most. Unless the client send them this property specifically and wants to see it, then they're going to come show it. But you're not going to get the full traffic, and traffic is what sells homes. You're not going to get the full spectrum of traffic. You're going to get 50, 60, 70% of that traffic. I want 100% of traffic, because 100% is hopefully going to get me a bidding war, and hopefully we're going to get the best offer out of that 100% traffic. So you're going to have to decide whether you want less traffic or more traffic. I'm okay with it. I'd like to get your listing. I'll reduce a little bit, but I think in the end it's just going to hurt you, not me. And I leave it at that. And 9 out of 10 times I say no, leave it at 6. Okay? Now, if they still are on the fence, I'll tell you what. I'll take the listing at 6%. However, if I procure the buyer, and I'll include it in the listing, I'll reduce you to 4% and I'll work the other side or 5% or whatever. I'll work the other side for that amount. Okay? Luckily for me, it works out pretty well, and it can work out for all of you as well, because my wife's an agent, and who's to say she didn't procure the buyer? You know what I mean? Okay?
Right.
So,
The perks.
yeah, I mean, that's not only the perks, but I mean, you guys have that, but it can work throughout the office anyways. You know what I mean? If you guys call me and say, Rick, I need to put you on the other side of procuring, put it and keep the commission. Doesn't matter. But you have to be smart on that, because we work too hard, and it really irks me to see our industry being affected. The other day I saw a listing in there for 1%. Give me a break, man.
Yeah,
Give me a break. You're going to sell a house. It was a $700,000 house for 1%. I'll walk in there and make $7,000 with all the work I got to do. No, you're short selling yourself. So protect your commissions, give yourself value, and sell yourself out there the way the value is. Obviously, the MLS has a lot of value, because this property is going to be seen by literally thousands and thousands. What do we have now? We're up to almost 40,000 agents in Florida that have access to that. So that they're going to be able to see this property is going to be seen, and you need to sell that. Not only that, but the MLS, all the MLSs have an IDX feed. That IDX feeds over to Zillow, feeds over to Redfin, feeds over. So the property is going to be literally in probably close to 100 websites out there throughout the nation and throughout the world that are going to be able to see the property. And it gets there because the MLS has the IDX feed. And we pay handsomely now. I think, what are we, up to almost $900 a year for our, plus our continuing education and everything else that goes along. So make sure that you can convey that your worth to that seller, okay? You're going to get sellers right now that are calling you for a listing presentation, but quite frankly, they don't plan on listing. They want you. They know that it's a seller's market. They're very sharp. And they want to get your opinion on the value of the house. And then before you know it, you see a for sale by owner there. Don't be discouraged. That happens. Okay? It happens. So if you get the feeling that that's where they're going, or if you notice that you've done a listing presentation, you didn't get the listing and they put it by owner, you want to go back and you want to let them know that you're okay with that, but if they need your help, that you're there. And also, you already went in there, okay? So you want, since he gave you the opportunity, ask him, listen, I understand you want to sell it on your own. However, would you allow me to market the property? And would you be okay paying me 3% commission if I procure a buyer for you without the listing? So an off-market property. Then you could take pictures and you could slam it on social media, and you might still sell it. But then again, he might not get any traffic. Your social media work might. You might give him 3-4 showings, and he says, you know what? I'm going to give you the listing, because the connection is there. It's all about the relationship. Okay? At first, it's great for a seller to sell a house, but when he makes 3 appointments and they don't show up, or he's got a buyer coming in and they're kicking tires, or they send him an offer and they want to put an offer, the buyer came in by owner, they don't even know how to put the offer together. They don't have a contract. What do? Do we call an attorney? So I always tell them, hey, listen, if you do get an offer or whatever, give me a call. Let me know. If you need some help putting the contract together for a minimal fee, I can help you get the paperwork through, because now I can jump in. And if that deal goes through, I can look, hey, look, listen, man, this buyer here, I wouldn't accept it. He doesn't even qualify for the financing. He's putting an offer. Does he have a DU? Does he have? You can go in there and criticize the offer and make sure that it's good or not, and that gives you another opportunity to earn his trust to give you the listing. So never give up. Keep fighting. Okay? The first 10 days of a buy owner, it's been proven, they get frustrated. They start getting a bunch of calls. People, everyone wants to see the house. They don't show up because there's not an agent, so there's really not a commitment. So people will call, yeah, I'd like to see it at 4 o'clock. The buyer shows up there at 4 o'clock. He's waiting for that buyer. They don't come in. So a lot of time it gets frustrated. Granted, we are in a very robust market right now, so you see it less and less. But this market does shift, and it goes into another seller, into not a complete seller's market, and you're going to see where that's advantageous to you. Okay. Also, there's also the fact that, for example, you don't know who's coming into your house when you're doing a buy owner, and I point that out. Who's coming into my house? With an agent, we know the client because he's got an approval letter. Mm-hmm. We know that they're a real person. How many times have people been robbed because they go into a buy owner, they case the property, they see what the alarm, what everything is, what the weak points are of the house, and then they come back and rob the house. That's an old MO for thieves. And you want to point that out to your seller. You know? You want to see that DU and you want to know what the ratio is. So I always call the mortgage broker as well. And even if I got the DU, if I don't know him, a lot of times I do, I'll call him and I say, hey, this is Rick Garcia from Lifestyle. I've received an offer from one of your clients. It's going to tell you whether the guy's responsive on the phone and the way your transaction is going to go. Okay? And at the same time, I say, yeah, my client considering accepting the offer, but I wanted to reach out first because I always like to have good communication with the buyer's mortgage lender so we can work together to make sure everything goes smoothly. Right? I'm letting them know, buddy, I'm going to be calling you. Okay? I'm on top of my deals, and I just don't like locking them up for them to fall. So you're going to hear from me, and I expect for you to respond. So I want to convey that to him, that we want to work together to make sure to get to the common goal. But that is also very important, and a lot of times the buy owners, they don't have a clue with that. So their deals fall through. So you got to stay by their side, make sure you check on them, be nice to them so that way they're there to offer them any guidance, and at the same time you're ready to step in and take over the deal. Okay?
Quick question. Once you have the listing, do you do an open house on this type of listings?
I have, yeah, of course. I've done several open houses here.
The minute you get the listing,
I usually take the listing, and I usually like doing the open house within a week of taking the listing. I want my pictures and my listing to be up, everything to be in place, and then so I have at least a week to market that open house. So yeah, I like doing it right away because although we know that a lot of times on these open houses, more than anything, neighbors are the ones that have been dying to see what the neighbor's house looks like and are coming over. But that's fine because that's an opportunity for you to showcase your services to that neighbor. You might get that listing one, and that neighbor may know somebody that is interested in moving in the neighborhood. They might have a friend, an acquaintance, a family member, somebody that's looking in the neighborhood. So they may help you sell. And obviously you want to have your sign up right away because you want to catch that road traffic. Maybe you can double bang it both sides. Okay.
At this price point, do you come to every single showing?
I do. I usually, at this price point, I don't like leaving the clients out in the wind because he expects that from me. Okay? Now, and it's perfectly okay if you can't make it, that you have somebody that you work with that knows. For example, on this property, I have myself and I have another buddy, Chris, that does some showings for me as well, and he's licensed. And so when I took the listing, I brought them in a few days later, and I gave them a tour of the house. We went over all the details of it, and that way they have access as well. So if I'm out of town, that I don't miss a showing. Okay, like now today, this one's going to be shown at 3, but I've got a 2 o'clock in Pembroke Pines for a listing presentation. So my wife is coming back at 3 o'clock to show here. All right, so we never miss a show.
And you've walked her through the property before.
Oh yeah, she's been through the property. She's shown it quite a few times. Yeah, yeah, always. You want to know. You don't want to have someone come doing showings for you on a house of this nature where there's so much detail to point out without first walking them through and making sure that they have a list of everything they need to point out. Okay, always very important. Any other questions?
Did you go over your marketing points throughout your listing presentation about like what do you do to market the property?
Yeah, of course. While we're discussing everything, obviously, I discuss that. Usually comes up during the commission. I always cover that once we get to the listing that we're discussing. The listing commission is vital. You got to point out what they're paying, what their costs are, and at that point, like I said, how I cover it, what I do. The moment I walk in here, I'm gonna spend on the marketing for the pictures, and then I go through everything what the MLS does, the social media. I tell them that I'm a Proxio realtor, that I also advertise internationally, and I've sold properties internationally as well. I'll give him, at that point, I'll let him know, where he can see my reviews, Realtor.com, Zillow, go in, look at my reviews and the homes that I've sold, and we'll cover all that stuff. Sometimes I'll even log in myself and show him, boom, 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 here's some reviews, and if you'd like to call, I also have a list, by the way. I have a list of prior sellers that I've sold their homes that I usually hand to them. It's a list that has their name, phone numbers, and I've already spoken to all the people, and they've given me permission to use them as a reference. It's a very powerful tool. They usually don't ever call. I've only had literally in the last probably 5 years, I think 1 or 2 that have called somebody. Usually they don't call. But that forthcomingness to where you're giving that information with a name and telephone number and the address of the property that you saw, that they can go online and see that that sale's yours, and you give them that information, is monumental. They may not, when you leave, they may check on it. And they may look at those properties and see if there's any reviews, which is great, because if they go in there, they're going to see reviews for that property. I only use the ones that have done great reviews for me. And then I'll put their name, and I'll put where the review is located so they can look at it. Okay? And that usually helps a lot too. So you have to break out all the stops on here. So start preparing your list of referrals of the previous sales. It's very impacting, because how many people walk in and share with somebody their past experience that they had with a client that's available for them. Okay, I make sure that when I have my listings or with any showing before I walk in, and if you guys walked in here and you noticed that there wasn't a light off in the house, I open up I want maximum light exposure always. Because light can display everything. The house looks great with light. Although this isn't a very dark house, you still want all the lights on. Every single one. So they can see the lighting and they can take it in and enjoy it. Any other questions?
Yeah. For your initial phone call, like before you when you're talking to them to book the listing appointment, how does that go? Like,
You keep it short and sweet just to get in, or do you
right.
Yeah, I usually try to keep it really simple. If they're giving me an appointment, like I said, the phone call is going to ask a lot of times if I can. This one here, I didn't get a phone call. I was referred to it, and they gave me a time to meet them, so I didn't have an opportunity. But if I do have an opportunity, I'll ask them, hey, listen, are you interviewing multiple agents or
If they say yes, what do you do?
and they say, okay, and have you interviewed them yet, or are you waiting to interview? No, I haven't interviewed them yet. Do you have them scheduled? Yes, I've got one scheduled for Tuesday, one scheduled for Wednesday. Okay, I'm available Thursday. Okay? So, and anytime.
Acogete cansado.
Yeah, or what time is your appointment on Wednesday? No, I've got a noon. I'm actually available right after noon. So I want to be the last one in. I want to seal the deal.
Do you ask them what they like and what they don't like about the meeting that they already had when you come in?
You'd be surprised.
They just already,
Once you make the connection,
they just talk.
they start telling you. Yeah. A lot of times they'll tell you, well, the other agent said this, or the other agent. So you're going to pick up. Yeah, you're going to pick up on all the cues of what the other agent said. And if you don't, I don't go in and bash an agent. I don't. I take what they give me. And I try to surpass it. Any information that they give me, I try to surpass it. Because you don't want to go in there and get a listing by mad-mouthing another agent.
Yeah.
The Lifestyle Family.